Shout out to 𝗿𝗏𝗍𝗏 for using my code on 𝗔𝗡𝗋'𝗄's website. If you'd like to do the same, check the link in the description. Thank you. Around a week ago, I ended up making a Solar 3.0 weapon guide, given the recent leaks and the heavy hinting from Bungie that Solar is the next subclass to get an update, and all of you guys absolutely loved that video. So today, I figured I'd make another installment in the 3.0 series by covering the top must-have Void 3.0 weapons to get for Void 3.0, which as we all know is already here, and this video probably won't do all that well considering that Witch Queen has been out for a while, but I wanted to make this video for fun, and with us finally getting our final weapon of the season via Guardian games, now is the perfect time to throw all of this together. As usual, we'll be covering the weapons one by one and going over what makes them so good, what their god rolls are, and of course how to get them. If you enjoyed the video today and would like to see more from me, a like and subscribe would mean the world, and without further ado, let's jump into this. Now, kicking off today's video, I'm going to bundle this entire category into one group because personal preference is key whenever it comes to deciding which one of these you want to main. Starting with the Void SMGs for the video, we got like all of them. The funnel web from the World Loot Pool, Shayura's Wrath from Trials, the title from Guardian games, and every waking moment from the moon. Every single one of these SMGs is completely different and has their own quirks that make them unique and desirable, so I'll try to cover them all one by one. Starting with Funnel Web, this is the only non-farmable SMG out of the group, but it definitely has some of the highest potential. This SMG is a 900 RPM and has been mostly compared to being the New Age Recluse, which is completely understandable given how effective it can be. With roles like Subsistence or Perpetual combined with Frenzy or Adrenaline, this weapon will be reloading and outputting damage at insane rates, and thanks to Void 3.0's volatile rounds, it helps replicate that old Recluse feel, no problem whenever it's active. Up next from Funnel Web, we have my personal favorite out of them all, the Shayura's Wrath from Trials of Osiris. This weapon has a much lower RPM at 600, but gets the range potential of an auto rifle, making it easy to keep distance from dangerous enemies inside master content. The perk roll here I recommend is Perpetual Motion paired with Kill Clip, Adrenaline, or Golden Tricorn. If you can help it, I highly recommend trying to get Flared Magwell as your mag perk, as the base reload on Shayura is very poor. If you're lucky and can get the appropriate masterwork and mag to remedy that, however, you have one of the strongest SMGs in the game hands down. Moving on to the newest of the bunch, we have the Title SMG from this year's Guardian games, and this weapon very much may become my new favorite in due time the more I use it. It comes in at a 750 RPM and has the best perks out of all the SMGs. With roles like Grave Robber Swash, Threat Detector Surrounded, and even the ever effective Stats for All 1 for All, you can see the potential of this weapon right off the rip. Just like Shayura's, the base reload isn't the best, so I also recommend speccing into boosting that up if possible. Lastly, for the SMGs, we have what I'd say is the worst, the Every Waking Moment. Now, although I view it as the weakest of the bunch, it still has some redeeming qualities, although there's a lot about it that I don't like. First up, it's a 600 RPM, but unlike Shayura, has ridiculously low range due to the stat itself and the zoom value, combined with the slowest reload out of all the SMGs thus far. It however does excel in the perk category with options like Subsistence and Ambitious in the first column, combined with Kill Clip, Adrenaline, or even Multi-Kill Clip, which can boost the damage to up to 50% at max stacks. All that said, the stats really deter me from using this thing, especially considering its RPM being so low, with no upside to that trade-off aside from perks. Now, up next from the whole SMG family, let's talk about scout rifles. First up, when it comes to Void Scouts, we of course need to get the king out of the way first, the 𝗏𝗏𝗡𝗍. Now, this scout is easier than ever to farm thanks to being added to the helm as an umbral decoding option, but it also comes from Shattered Throne as well as Blind Well. Basically, all you need to know about 𝗏𝗏𝗡𝗍 is that it's essentially an elemental version of Night Watch with the same rapid hit and explosive payload god roll on top of its Void 3.0 synergies. Of course, accompanying 𝗏𝗏𝗡𝗍 this season, we also have Aisha's Embrace. This weapon drops from Trials of Osiris and can get some really dope perks on top of being a rapid fire frame, making it full auto. If you're running casual content, a role like Stats for All and Multi-Kill Clip can't go wrong. If you're an in-game, then Stats for All or Triple Tap with Vorpal or Focus Fury isn't bad either. And if you're feeling super quirky and never want to stop firing, Triple Tap in 4th times is also up for grabs. Segueing on over from our single shot weapons, let's talk about those that send a volley of bullets no problem, the machine guns. And with machine guns getting massive buffs going into next season, these next two weapons are 100% must-haves across the board, no matter what. Starting off with Commemoration, this is the Deepstone Crypt adaptive machine gun and is most known for its crazy magazine capacity thanks to Reconstruction. Reconstruction Rampage is just an absolute treat on this weapon, regardless of what content you're playing, as machine guns have zero problems ramping up stacks due to how much damage they can dish out. Of course, while Commemoration is a great machine gun, I much prefer its cousin from Vault of Glass, the Corrective Measure. What it lacks in individual mag size, it more than makes up with its perk selection. With Demo in the first column combined with Adrenaline or One for All in the second, Corrective Measure not only pumps out crazy damage numbers, but also gives a volley of grenades to go along with it, which is key for Void 3.0 anyways. You could always go with Subsistence in that first column to best replicate the Commemoration, but I recommend playing into its strengths and going full send on a grenade build, which is what I think makes this weapon special. Up next from machine guns, let's talk about our first special weapons of the video, the grenade launchers. And what better one to start off with than Deafening Whisper. Unfortunately, this weapon is no longer available, but is the cream of the crop as far as Void GLs go, given that it's a wave frame with insane perks to boot. With perks like Lead from Gold or Ambitious combined with Wellspring or Unrelenting, you don't really need damage perks on wave frames in my opinion, you got yourself a really solid option. Of course, for those of you wanting to scratch that wave frame itch and you don't have a deafening, the Dead Messenger Exotic GL is always an option, and a damn good one at that. It comes from the exotic mission Vox Obscura on Mars, and is an absolute unit. You don't really need me to talk too much about this thing. It can change elements on the fly, it has a massive blast radius, and is just an overall fan favorite right now. Lastly, for the GLs, this one isn't a wave frame like the others, and instead has more of a utility focus than anything, and that is the Truth Teller from Dares of Eternity. Your main reason for using this bad boy is going to be its blinding nade potential, with a role like autoloading in Demo or Disruption Break, but it can also be used offensively with spike nades if that's more your taste. Either way, Void GLs are absolutely stacked, and 100% worth getting your hands on if you haven't already. Up next from grenade launchers, let's talk about some Void pulse rifles, so I can remind myself how I regret not farming our first one for the video, the Grid Skipper. You know, I never realized just how little Void pulses we had until I started researching this video, and now I deeply regret not farming this one. Grid Skipper is no longer obtainable, but was a rapid fire pulse from Season of the Splicer that feels absolutely amazing in both PvE and PvP, and can get pretty damn good rolls like Slideways, which I'm kind of using as the reload perk because there isn't really much else, combined with Frenzy, Adrenaline, or a multi-kill clip. Really regret not picking up a Slideways Frenzy roll before it went away, but what are you gonna do? If you guys even have a decent rolled one of these, I definitely recommend holding on to it until we get more variety in the Void department. Now, if you don't have a Grid Skipper like myself, the only real worthwhile Void pulse right now is probably Last Perdition, which I believe can drop in dares and is also sold by Xur and the Gunsmith on a fairly frequent basis. Outlaw Kill Clip is probably the go-to roll here for me, but adaptives just don't feel that great overall, so I don't know. There's the Premonition from Pit of Heresy, however. It can get Feeding Frenzy or Slideways with high impact and Rampage, but then again, nothing exactly crazy. Of course, if you are lacking on the legendary Void Pulse side of things, Graviton Lance will always have your back as a World Loot exotic, and is actually fairly great when combined with volatile rounds, so it's not a bad pick at all, and I think a lot of people really sleep on this weapon, especially since exotic primaries got buffed. I still just don't see that many people using it. Moving on from pulses, let's talk about fusion rifles, because hot damn, we got some bangers. Two in fact. Now starting off, let's talk about the Snorri FR5, aka Better Null Composure. This precision frame drops from the World Loot Pool and drops with the new perk Compulsive Reloader in the first column, and when you look at that, it pairs perfectly with Reservoir Burst, making this thing an absolute monster in the ad clear department. But maybe you're not a big Reservoir Burst kind of person, and want fusions to feel how they did back in Lost. Well, allow me to introduce you to Likely Suspect. This rapid fire Throne World fusion can roll or be crafted with stats for all, one for all, or Golden Tricorn if you're feeling frisky, and the overall damage output and reload speed with this roll is just phenomenal. Definitely one of the biggest sleeper picks of the Witch Queen expansion in my opinion, and I absolutely love it, so if you haven't been using it, I highly recommend giving it a try. Alright, let's make this next part short and sweet because there really isn't too much to say. Void Combat Bows. Le Monarch comes from the exotic kiosk in the tower, and season after season has cemented itself as one of, if not the best bow in the game for PvE. Get it if you haven't, because poisoning enemies and making them volatile at the same time is just an absolute joy that all people should experience. Next, under your skin, one of if not the best legendary bow. It comes from the new Battlegrounds playlist or crafting, and can roll with great god rolls like Archer's Explosive Head, Unrelenting Dragonfly, and even Archer's Warm Up. Absolute dimes the both of these are, so get them if you haven't already. Up next from bows, let's talk about auto rifles, the distant cousins of the SMGs we talked about earlier. Starting off, we have the Dares of Eternity drop Gnawing Hunger. This 600 RPM auto has been a fan favorite for a long ass time, so I wouldn't be surprised if you already have a great roll. Subsistence Demo or Rampage is currently on my wish list, but I'm leaning really close to Demo to fully synergize with Void 3.0. Even with a bad roll, Gnawing Hunger will more than succeed, as I actually used a fairly mediocre one during my 24-hour clear of 𝗟𝗛𝗓 the Disciple earlier this season, so you really can't go wrong. If you're more of a 720 guy though for auto rifles, we have a pretty similar weapon, the Reckless Oracle. This weapon comes from Garden of Salvation, and Outlaw paired with either Kill Clip, Swash, or Demo will serve you more than well here. Moving on, I think it's about time we talk about hand cannons, and the only real one I can recommend here is the Palindrome. This weapon just recently got new perks too, and I ended up making a PSA video not too long ago about it. Although I'm not sure if you can farm it anymore this season due to Nightfall rotations. Regardless, if you have an Overflow or Stats for All 1-for-all roll, then you're more than set in the hand cannon department moving forward until they start dropping better Void ones. For the last category of the video, I just want to have a quick chat about swords. First up, Falling Guillotine. Nothing much I can say about the sword that hasn't already been said, just know it absolutely slaps, can be sold by 𝗍, the Gunsmith, and it can drop from dares. And lastly, a sword I'm really excited to farm during the Iron Banner rework next season, Razor's Edge. Unrelenting and Chain Reaction is all I have to say, sounds like an absolute blast, and I can't wait to get my hands on it. Finally, finally, I just want to talk about some honorable mentions just for the heck of it. The first of which is actually pretty nutty with Void 3.0, and the others are just notable Void weapons in general. First up, we have the Ruinous Effigy. Yeah, I bet you forgot about this bad boy, but hot damn, does it actually synergize very well with volatile rounds. Not only does the Trace Beam itself deal tons of damage when the buff is active, but the balls that you can pick up greatly benefit from the AoE attack, becoming even more powerful than it already is. Definitely a sleeper pick in Void 3.0, and I wanted to save it for the end of the video for my most dedicated viewers to see, but that's pretty much it everyone. Just a little fun video highlighting all the current best Void weapons in the game right now, and although this video probably won't do as well as my other ones, I sure hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you all so much for usual as watching to the very end of the video, as it does wonders to promote my content and help out the channel, and shout out to my Patreon supporters for supporting the content as well. Big ups to my tier 2s, Homebase Serenity, OnRock, Crunchwrap, Admis, Vile, John, and Dylan, as well as my tier 3s, Neon, 𝘁cie𝗂'𝗿𝗄, Austin, and Galumia. Thank you all so much for watching today's video, and I'll see you guys next time.